What's up, guys? We are back. We got another fishing report for you here. It is October 2025. I got Captain Chip Bragg. He's right there. Striper guide here on Lake Murray. And I'm Chris Blanchette. I do the bass guides out here on Lake Murray for Coast to Cove Charters. So real quick, we kind of took a little bit of a break, couple-month break. A little bit, all of it is actually my fault, so I'm fishing the Bassmaster Opens, and I qualified, finishing 10th in the Angler of the Year to fish the Bassmaster EQs. And as a part of the EQs rules format, since the Bassmaster Elite Series is going to be on Lake Murray next year, I was not allowed to discuss or talk about any type of tournament waters that were going to be on the Elite Series for next year. That being said, I kind of didn't do super great in the first tournament on Lake Champlain. I messed up and only had 14 pounds one of the days, and that's enough to keep you from making the Elite Series. So that being said, we're back. We're able to talk about Lake Murray. I'm actually kind of relieved, able to really kind of talk fishing with my buddy Chip again, which is awesome. And, so we're going to do that. So let's start off with lake conditions. I've spent a ton of time the last couple of weeks too, since I've been back, just pretty much on the water as much as I can. I know Chip was too. He's actually on the water today as well. So, I would say the biggest thing too, and I'll kind of just starts off, is that the water level is way lower than what, than it has been, right? It's down a lot. It's 357.01 right now. So it's, 3 feet low. It spiked up a little bit. It looks like I've actually got the Lake Murray water level report right here on my left. And I'll kind of put a little, screenshot of that inside of the video too, so everyone can see it based over the historicals the last 3 years. But yeah, it's definitely fallen. It looks like it was up 359 there, August time frame. That's when we had all that rain. If y'all remember, we had a ton of rain. And it's just steady kind of been creeping down, and I really don't see a whole heck of a lot to kind of stop it from continuing to go down a little bit. In 2023, it actually was way down. It got, this time of the year, it was actually about, almost 3 feet lower, 2.5 feet lower than it is currently. So, not a whole lot. We do see that a good bit on Lake Miranda. You've seen it a ton, Chip. As the fall, they kind of start drawing it down, and we obviously haven't gotten a ton of rain lately. So that definitely affects the fishing. What are you seeing as far as water clarity, water temperature, just from your obviously standpoint being out there?
Yeah, it's about normal. Although I feel like the water's a little bit warmer than it should be for this time of year, or at least in the last couple of years. Seems like a lot of fish that I'm wanting to target just seem to be a little bit behind this year. They're starting to get up into that fall pattern, but I think that warmer water temp, I think we're 70. It just came down a little bit. We hit that cold front last couple of days, so we're down to like 73, 74. Of course, in the later afternoons, you'll see some higher stuff, but in the mornings, we're starting out 72 to 73, 74. I would like to see it down in them upper 60s. And we may see some of that. I think we got a couple of 40-degree nights coming up here in the next week or so.
Yeah.
But water clarity has been pretty good, especially down lake, like it typically is. Up the lake, it's not dirt; it's just stained. It's almost like probably like a November, December stain to it. And I think that's just a little bit of rain we had late summer that kind of rolled through here is probably what's causing that. So I don't foresee any really clean water coming this winter. If you like to fish the upper end of the lake, be prepared. It's going to be stained until we get probably our first good hard rain with exposed banks, and then, of course, the mud will come. But we'll talk about that over the next couple months. Only thing water-wise I do want to point out, I have been playing around up top a little bit, just going to look and stuff. There are, especially around the River Forks, guys, there's a big tree on the right side that's not been there. It's sticking about a foot out of the water. I know some of the boats like to hold that right bank going up around that blind curve.
Yeah.
That thing, do not run that up through there. There was a tree that's literally sticking about 6 inches to a foot out of water, right where boats typically run. So be aware of that as far as just some of the water conditions we're seeing out there.
Yeah, and that's another great point too. With the water dropping, definitely got to be cautious with, making sure you're looking at your mapping. Pay really close attention to the white danger buoys when you're out there. Those typical, places that have 3 to 5 feet of water on top of them. Now they don't. They've got a foot, 2 foot, maybe 3 feet. So definitely be careful while you're out there and be mindful while you're navigating and as the water potentially continues to drop as well. That being said, we've had a big moon here recently. The baitfish are definitely active, moving around. I've been seeing a ton of stuff. If you want, just kind of tell me a little bit about what you've been seeing as well. Especially too with how the bait, I think this is a really cool point. It's like how the bait is moving throughout the duration of the day based off of the sun exposure and how that kind of affects the bite.
And it's kind of weird. So, of course, I'm out there I'm pretty much out there every day. And I've seen some weird stuff going on. And I kind of wonder if it had to do with that full moon. Of course, there's that little cold front come in. But so, the mornings we're seeing it up on top a little bit. But it doesn't stay up long. I kind of wonder if with that moon, it wasn't coming up like, 6 a.m.-ish when we're all getting up to about 7. I'm wondering if some of that bait wasn't up high early. But I'm starting to see a lot of deep bait. And I don't know if it's because the lake's getting closer to turning over. We're still probably a month and a half away from a turnover.
Yeah.
Or at least a month. But I'm seeing a lot of deep bait. But that could be the herring that are deep. The thread fins and the gizzards are probably coming up higher in the column. I'm not a bait specialist. I can't look at it. Some of it I can look at and tell you it's herring or tell you it's thread fins. But a lot of deep bait down the lake. When I say down the lake, probably from, I don't know, from Dreer Island or maybe Timberlake down towards the dam. Seen a lot of deeper bait. Once you go above Dreer, a lot of suspended bait. But, the water's going to be a little shallower up there anyway.
Right.
But, and that's another thing, too. Once you go above the Big Gap, I've seen a lot more gas than off up there. A lot of bubbles on the graph, a lot of bubbles in the water. So that kind of tells me something's going on above the gap versus below the gap, which that happens every year. All that gap, right? The big gap really kind of holds back a lot of even the mud when it comes down to wintertime. Sometimes that big gap holds it back. So also that stuff happens above the big gap before it happens below. So that's just something else to think about too. But the bait's been high, been low. It just seems like it's the farther you go down the lake, the deeper it is on my end that I'm seeing. It's a little higher in the column above Dreer.
Yeah. Pretty much a lot of what I'm seeing too. I'm seeing a bunch of bait. To your point, like you said, the thread fin and the herring. You can kind of tell a little bit after you look at your electronics enough to know okay, that's what this is. That's what this is. Thread fin's more of like a glitter ball looking deal. Herring are a little bit more spaced out and usually are in smaller groups. So I'm seeing a bunch of that, and to your point, exactly like you said, man, that I'm seeing too is as the sun goes up, it kind of moves the bait around a little bit, in the water column, and then that kind of is it makes me change the approach on how you position and present to those types of fish. But yeah, so we talked about the bait, we talked about water conditions. Let's talk about fishing. So the actual fishing part of it. So tell me for stripers, what are you seeing? I know you've done some catfish too, stripers, catfish, kind of everything that you've been fishing for. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing.
Of course, we're getting into the fall patterns. I'll start targeting all kinds of stuff in the fall. My phone just rings. People are wanting catfish. They're wanting perch. They're wanting crappie. They're wanting the stripers. So it's just a mix of everything going on. And it's always a good time to be on the lake right now because the air temps are cooling down. Fish are starting to get a lot more, they feed better. They're feeding up for that winter, that cold weather that's coming. But the stripers they're scattered. I've caught them above 391 already, and I've caught them in the big pool all in the last week. That's how far they're spread out. I'm still seeing a lot of fish over top of probably if you come below, if you're below Dreer, open water fish over top of the main channel, or over top of ditches, in the ditches or over top of the main channel. I'm using weighted planer boards, weighted free lines, and down rods, and I'm moving about 0.8 to 0.9 miles an hour. I find when those fish are scattered like that, the more you move around, not with the big motor, move around with the trolling motor, they want to move in bait. They don't want to be set on top of. Now that's completely different for some people. I know some people are still down rodding, and that's, you catch your fish how you can catch your fish, but I prefer to be moving right now, covering ground.
They're skittish too, aren't they? Like they're kind of,
what's that?
They're kind of skittish too, like from what I've been seeing.
They're just moving. And that's another thing I've noticed too. So if you're sitting still and you're catching a lot of smaller fish and having to go through them, going through a ton of bait to catch a keeper, the keeper bigger fish tend to eat moving baits a little bit better. I've literally caught this week, I bet you I've caught only 10 or 11 short fish. Everything's been keepers. But I'm moving. I'm not trying to sit on top and bring them to me. I'm moving. So that's the stripers, though. Cats, I went and played around with them a little bit today. I got some cat trips coming up next week. Just kind of did some quick stuff. I was dragging. I didn't have time to go catching a perch. I had gizzard shad and I had herring, and I was dragging anywhere from 20 to 50 foot of water, channel edges, anywhere the contours stack up real tight, guys, on the maps. We had one go about 27, 28 pounds today, and a bunch of channels. I didn't spend a whole lot of time. I feel like I probably could have busted a good one if I had some perch. If I spent some time with them. The crappie, I haven't personally messed with them some, but as I'm riding around the lake, I'm watching boats. I know where all the brush pile, ton of brush piles are, and I can ride up and down the lake, and I see boats sitting on brush piles that I got marked, and I'm watching them catch crappie. So crappie are biting. They're on brush, the same typical winter brush, that 20, even 30 foot brush, but really that 18 to 25 foot brush is where you want to be right now on those crappie. But they should really, really start to be heating up. Haven't messed with the perch too much. A couple times, about 30 to 40 foot of water. Toughies and cut herring, it'll get them done pretty quick. They're still balled up pretty good, and it should only get better as that water cools down.
Yeah. And, like the perch are starting to show up too. I'm seeing those kind of out there, and, when you're out there idling around, kind of in the middle of the ditches. So just kind of jump in and kind of pivot a little bit into largemouth. I'll tell you everything that I've seen kind of here lately. And, we just had a tournament actually that came through here. It was a BFL regional. It looks like it was about 14 and a half pounds a day to cut a check in that one. You did have two outliers that kind of wanted, I guess, three that were above that 40 pound range. I got the results right here. I'm looking at them. I know the top guy, he caught his scope in a minnow, and I would assume the second guy did too. Now that being said, the more kind of consistent bags as you go down, where it's like good weight both days, you can mix it up and catch fish, without having to be way off the bank right now. And that's kind of what I'll talk about. Is there's a good bite up shallow right now, and a good bite offshore too. So like it's kind of a pick 'em right now, and that's what makes Lake Murray so good. It's you can go catch fish pretty much how you want to catch fish. You just have to go do it in very specific areas and make sure your timing's right and all that. So bite windows right now, I'm kind of all over the place with it, but bite windows right now are super small. You got about an hour and a half where they'll turn on, and bam, you can pretty much do no wrong. Like you'll catch them, and then you'll go. And outside of that bite window, you'll kind of get one here, kind of get one there, nothing crazy. But then when the bite window opens up again, you can go smash them. And you can do that shallow and deep. Early morning, we've been seeing some fish up shallow. We've caught some really nice quality fish up shallow, throwing like buzz style baits. And, then we'll kind of go as the day goes on. Around 11 o'clock, that offshore bite kind of turns on pretty good. And, we can go offshore, and there's big schools pretty much all throughout the, like 15, 20-foot zone, 25-foot zone. You pull up on the points, secondary points, main lake points, humps, and they're there. They are really pressured though, so you got to be really, really, I guess, strategic on how you present and approach those fish. You definitely don't want to get right on top of them, throw at them from 30 or 40 feet away. You want to make sure you're off the bait or off the fish a little bit, and make sure your bait goes past them. And then also another thing that I'm kind of seeing a little bit of is, you've got the shallow bite. There's a couple fish on docks too, which I seem there seems to always be, and they're starting to push some of the bait back into the pockets just a hair. I wouldn't quite chase that bite just yet, but know that's coming here within the next couple weeks, especially at these cooler nights. I caught one today actually that was like in the very back of a creek, and it was a decent fish. And then also caught something way out in deeper water too. So, kind of just a mixed bag. But however you want to catch them is how you can catch them right now. You just got to stay committed, make sure you hit high percentage areas. Know that the bite window is not always open right now. It is kind of starting to be that fall, tougher time period. But, you can target them with the buzz style baits. You can target them with like a top water, a fluke, caffeine shad. The jig head minnow deal, you can catch them. Finesse worm, and I've actually got some jigs tied on too, so I'm excited to go out there and see if we can get some on a jig as well. That being said, that's what I'm seeing for largemouth. Kind of some stuff we have coming up is me and Chip have talked about is we've actually brought this up a few times, is possibly starting a kind of like a channel where we do like an in-depth advanced angler type deal. And we were going to do that in August. That kind of got pushed back, obviously, with the tournaments that I was fishing and their rules. So look to see that here within the next couple months. We definitely have that on the docket, and we're in works on that. And that being said, I don't know what else I've got, Chip. We kind of went over a lot of stuff: water quality, historicals, bite windows, what they're eating, how the bait's reacting. Like we've given out a lot of really good stuff that we're seeing.
Yeah, it was a lot of substance pretty quick there, and we're just getting back in the groove of things, and it'll get a little bit, as October, especially early October like this. Everything's still transitioning, and I'm looking forward to it being a really good year. So you said, I know I'm seeing a lot of good greenfish on my end. Stripers are looking really, really good. I think it's going to be a really good, fun fall, winter bite this year for everybody. As long as we get some decent weather, I need some cool nights. Get some cool nights in here. I'll feel a lot better. I was in hoodie and jeans 3 days this week, and I was in shorts and a t-shirt today. So,
it's traditional fall in the Midlands, right, man. Yeah, we definitely need some cold nights, get things moving a little bit better. But yeah, mid to low 70s water temperature for this time of the year is a little warm still. With that being said, I'm going to leave you guys Bible verse of the month, Colossians 3:23. Check that out. Definitely super applicable to fishing, especially if you do it for a tournament sense. And with that, we will see you guys next month.